pork o'brien has been here for the last few weeks. Pretty unpredictable stuff, isn't it?
It certainly is. It reminds you of that quote from Charles de Gaulle, you know, how can anyone govern a country with 246 different types of cheese? It's not about cheese. There isn't a particular political culture in France of compromise. And now what you have, as you said, is 3 different blocs, none of whom can make a majority. And their factions within those blocs are not only enemies, they see each other as the devil incarnate. So that's the backdrop behind the potential parliamentary chaos we see now. Over the last 24 hours, of course, though, the headlines have been a resurgent left. For supporters of the left, this was more than an exit poll party. It was personal. Would their country still be their country when the countdown reached 1? On to the centre of Paris last night, Place de la République, the spiritual home of protest, there were scenes. The reason, a hastily put together bloc of left-wing parties came out on top. The new Popular Front, named after the alliance formed to resist Nazism in the 30s, took over 180 seats, beat the far-right National Rally.
We finally did something we're proud of. We're proud of France again. Those ideas have disappeared. Our national motto lost its meaning. Now we've got it back, and it's a beautiful thing. But now we've got to run.
Festivities cut short by police clearing the square. But not the sense of history. Across town at the National Rally event just before 8 p.m, fresh faces, similar question. Will France become their country when the countdown reaches 1? The answer, no. National Rally came third behind Macron's centrist bloc, who were down but not out. The air went out of the room here, I have to say, when that result came in. People here were expecting National Rally to do much better. It was like a pin been stuck in a balloon. How do you feel now?
I don't have words for that, but I'm disappointed.
With the left as the main force in Parliament, the red carpet's being rolled out for us in 2027. We'll win in 2027.
For now, for the National Rally, champagne put on ice. But for how long? This young activist rightly points to the inexorable rise of the party. For him, this is victory delayed, not defeat.
In 2017, we had 8 MPs. In 2024, we now have between 130 to 150 MPs. That's a victory. It's a rejection of this perverse system.
Interview cut short as Jordan Bardella takes to the stage. Marine Le Pen's protégé, but now not Prime Minister.
Amid a cost of living crisis, with the country being hit by uncertainty and disorder, France has been deprived of a majority government and therefore a clear path to fixing our problems.
Today, he was elected as president of the new far-right Patriots for Europe group in the European Parliament, the brainchild of Hungary's Viktor Orbán. Not the job, though, he really wanted.
Mr. Bardella, what went wrong?
President Macron has asked his Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, to stay in place for now, but he'll eventually have to name a new one, and any would-be coalition or minority government would have to be happy to work with his appointee. The winner, New Popular Front, is a disparate alliance on the left, a political colour wheel that runs from pink to red to scarlet with a bit of green. The leader of one of the biggest hard-left factions sounding bullish.
First of all, the president must either leave or choose a prime minister from within our ranks.
So, when it comes to the next French government, the question. What are the options?
So option number 1 is a minority government from the National Popular Front, that is the left alliance, which has been announced ahead of the election. Option number 2, President Macron uses his privilege, which is to nominate someone from even outside the parliament, possibly, for what could be a technocratic government.
National Rally have run out of potential coalition partners, so at their event last night, the leadership was holed up at the venue discussing strategy. Marine Le Pen has just left. They've obviously had a huddle upstairs after this result, and here she comes now. She's in the car. This loss might help them. A period of legislative stagnation, then they come to the rescue.
Porrick O'Brien reporting. And joining me now here on the bridge is Arthur de la Porte, who's just been re-elected as a Member of Parliament for the Socialist Party, which is part of the new Popular Front. And it's worth remembering, by the way, that President Macron once served in the Socialist government. And Reem Momtaz joins me as well. She's a research fellow for European foreign policy and security at the International Institute of Strategic Studies. Welcome to you both. Has Macron's gamble paid off? There were so many people who were so unhappy about it.
Obviously, it didn't work at all because he lost everything. He lost his majority, even though it was a relative majority, but he also lost the confidence of his own troops. So it's a total loss for him.
And do you think it's even possible? I mean, you're a member of the Socialist Party. You know, you're the, one of the more reasonable members of this, this Popular Front.
So.
Is it possible for this front to get together and form a government?
I hope so, because people who voted for me voted for a government of the Front Populaire, Popular Front. So
Mr. Mélenchon, the head of La France Insoumise, wants taxes at 75%, the top tax rate of 90%.
It doesn't say that at all, and this is not our program. Our program is a very reasonable program. I mean, we wrote together this program and people want change. So now, because we are the biggest group and the biggest faction in parliament, we have to gain the prime minister and then form a majority coalition on the basis of our program.
Who will be the prime minister?
I don't know yet. We are discussing it right now.
Which party?
Could be a socialist, maybe, because we have to gain the confidence of all the members, maybe of the former majority of Macron, so it could be a socialist, but it could be someone else.
Are you telling us that France will be governable? It won't be ungovernable?
It could be.
It could be.
I'm reasonably confident. We have to get a government for France, and we are responsible members of parliament, and we have to find a solution to deal with this situation, because we have 1 year before new elections, so we have to have a government for the next year.
By the way, you've got Olympics coming up as well in a few weeks, so that's another matter. Reem Momtaz, I mean, Britain has gone through a psychodrama, in the last 8 years since the Brexit referendum. It's now got a new government. It's keep calm and carry on. You've reversed roles with us, haven't you, somewhat?
Yes, and there's a huge difference in political culture, but also political systems. In a way, the parliamentary system in the UK shepherded the UK through that era and that period of turmoil, whereas there's a lot of talk about how the current political regime is really out of breath in France and no longer adjusted to deal with the new political realities in France.
Do you agree with that, by the way? I mean, the new political realities in France are beyond, traditional parties.
I mean, it's always changing, and we don't know what will happen next. But what I'm considering is that today, the traditional parties, like the Socialist Party, who everyone told that we were dead people, now we are winning.
Well, you're still pretty small, to be honest.
Still pretty small, but we will be maybe the biggest parliamentary group of the new Popular Front.
Reem, what happens in Paris doesn't stay in Paris. What happens in France doesn't stay in France. You matter enormously in Europe, and Macron has mattered a lot on the world stage. Is he now weakened as a result of all this?
Yeah, there's no doubt that Macron emerges from the snap election as quite weakened and even isolated, not just because he's lost the control he used to have on his own majority, but because he has introduced a level of instability and a level of unpredictability that he was supposed to protect France from in the eyes of his European and NATO allies and partners. And France today is definitely looking at least a period of political deadlock, of political instability, at a moment for Europe that is highly strategic, highly vulnerable, with the US very distracted with its own elections and also turning away from Europe in many ways and going toward Asia. So there's a lot at stake, and Europe without a strong France is not a strong Europe.
And we mentioned the issue of Ukraine, the war in Ukraine earlier, which of course cropped up in the election campaign as well. There are some differing views about Ukraine, aren't there, in the new Popular Front. Will the new government support Ukraine as much as the old one?
So the program that they put together in a few days when they cobbled together this coalition after the snap election was called does say that they do plan on continuing to support Ukraine, to make sure that Ukraine can have its sovereignty. But there's a very interesting line where they say, you know, supplying the necessary weapons, and that's very much up for interpretation. We know that within the new Popular Front, the Socialist Party is very much in favor of giving all the weapons to Ukraine, but the far left of Mélenchon is not.
Well, he just gave you a Gallic shrug here, Mr. de la Pole. So you're in favor, but what about Mr. Mélenchon and
in fact,
La France
we signed a common program which says that we have to get all the support to Ukraine that they need. So we will do this. And the European elections that put the socialists at the first place at the left wing says that we are the one who do the lines, the political lines. So they will follow us. Raphael Glucksmann, who was the head of the list for the European elections, was a strong supporter of Ukraine's sovereignty.
So you've got Biden in a pretty, you know, perilous state at the moment, possibly Trump as the next president. You've got the German government weakened, you've got Macron weakened. Are the Brits the designated survivors of liberal democracy? It's
been very interesting to see suddenly, after 8 years of being kind of the black sheep, that people look to the UK now as a glimmer of hope and hoping that at the end of the day they're going to end up in as good a situation. But the truth is the UK isn't enough, with all due respect to the means and power of the UK. France needs to be able to play its full role. The US needs to be able to play its full role if the West is going to be able to fully continue to support Ukraine and help it defeat Russia.
Arthur de la Pole, one of the theories behind this gamble of the elections was to put the hard right into power, let them stop complaining about the plumbing, but fix the plumbing. They can now sit back and say, we're just watching you guys screw up, okay? Doesn't this make them stronger in the long term? Doesn't this give Marine Le Pen the chance to become president next time round?
I think what Macron did was so irresponsible because, as you did say that...
Will the national rally get stronger? That's the question.
If the national rally gets stronger, yes, they are still strong. Right now they are strong. And we are weak. Collectively we are weak. But we managed to get united with, I would say, the désistement républicain when, for instance, socialists didn't get to the second poll for the runoff for Macronists, for instance, for supporters of Emmanuel Macron, and this made the Republic won. And I think that next year, if we get a government that we made social justice, we can win on Front National.
In one word, will Marine Le Pen be the next president of France, yes or no?
She has very good chances.
No.
It depends how she plays her cards in the next 3 years.
Okay, we'll talk.